Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Did you all vote? Yay! Yes, good. If you haven't, later this evening you can. You have the opportunity. So thank you so much for coming to our HLC Administrative Retreat. I know it's a big chunk of your week today, but I think it's important that we get together. And the purpose of this retreat, this meeting, is, as you can see in the agenda, we have several presenters of our fellow colleagues on various initiatives that are going on around the college. We just want to make sure we're all on the same page about all the different initiatives, the positive work that we've done. We've overcome certain challenges with these various initiatives, and all for the benefit of our students. So the Chancellor asked that we get together and share all the positive work that has taken place throughout the year. Some housekeeping rules, and then I have a couple of announcements. So those who are presenting, I thank you for submitting your PowerPoints. Rafael in the back is going to be helping us with the PowerPoints. If you haven't yet submitted yours, or just go ahead and let Carissa know and she'll help you with that. When you are presenting, please, those of you who have questions, because after every presentation there'll be an opportunity for Q&A. I've been asked to let you know to use this microphone that's in the middle if you have questions to come up, because they are recording this. We have some colleagues who are at a conference, about 3 or 4 of them, and so we want to make sure that they have access to the presentations, and that's why it's being recorded. And then if you feel you don't want to come up to the microphone, the presenter, if you could please repeat the question so everybody knows what the question is. Also, the restrooms are down the hall. However, I understand the closest one for the men's restroom is being retiled. So the men's restroom, the other one is like way down the hall. So you have to trek down the hall a little bit, just for you to know about that. We will have snacks and coffee and water throughout the day, and then you will have lunch, a formal lunch. So we'll be looking forward to that. And I wanted to thank Carissa and Katie for putting all of this together, for the hard work that they did. So thank you to Carissa and Katie. Also, they're going to be helping the presenters by putting up a sign, a 5-minute warning sign, so you know how much time you have left. So they'll be doing that. So, good news. Yesterday, we submitted everything for the HLC. So the assurance argument, the federal compliance report, and the campus evaluation. So we're very, very happy. Yay! Thank you to everyone who worked on that. Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Bruce, for your leadership. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the co-chairs of the criterions. If you could please stand up if you were a co-chair for one of the criterions. Please stand up. We want to recognize your efforts. Thank you so much. Those who worked on the federal compliance report, if you could please stand also. I know there were a bunch of you. Yay. Thank you, Norma. Those of you that worked on the campus visit evaluation reports, please stand. Lamada, please stand. Thank you, everyone. And then Louise, I know you worked tirelessly on the evidence, links, and files. So where's Louise? I know I saw her. Yay, Louise. Yes. Katie Hernandez and Gail Bell were also instrumental in the last parts of putting everything together and sending it off. So we're very grateful for Katie and Gail. So thank you. And the writers, I know there were several writers, and we had one writer that kind of put the voice together, but everybody else was a writer. So the writers, please stand. I'd like to appreciate and be grateful for you. Michael, Nick, and others. Yes, thank you. So one more, some words of congratulations to Nina for being acting vice president of Pathways. So congratulations. And Jeff Teese, I think everybody saw the email yesterday. Congratulations on being acting dean of math and DevEd. Thank you. So we've got wonderful people at the college and all the work that you're doing, and thank you. And I know all the deans and people who were involved with the faculty reductions. That was very, very difficult process to go through. So I also appreciate the weeks and weeks and months of work that you put into it. So thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pass it over to the Chancellor, who is going to talk about the outline of assessment of Pima when he first came to the college and his perspectives of what he thought how the college was.
Thank you, Dolores. Well, good morning, everybody. And thank you for coming together in a short time frame. I just said to Gabi I wanted to have a meeting where we highlight a lot of the positive things that have been happening at the college. Little did I know that the date she found was today's date. So thank you for making adjustments in your schedule. But it's important that we as a group really understand the positive changes that have happened at the college in the face of many challenges. So before I go into what Dolores highlighted, I just want to make note of something very important. So one of the most difficult things you'll do as an administrator is to have to engage in a reduction in force. That is like something I wouldn't wish upon anybody in this room to have to be part of that decision-making process. And I wouldn't want to wish that upon anybody who would be impacted directly in terms of their employment being lost as a result of a reduction in force, but also on those who still are here. So we have to be mindful as we go forward that there are going to be a lot of folks who will process these challenges in different ways. So I think ongoing conversations will need to continue to occur. We're working on a base message that we'll be sending out. And then I hope that each and every one of you will share that with your units. Talk to the employees. Also, I want to put this in a larger context for a moment. We started this process really over 4 years ago. And so I think that gets lost. Over 4 years ago, two key things happened. One was Pima got zeroed out in the state budget. So we can't ever lose sight of that. So we went from, at one stage, well over $20 million from the state of Arizona to now zero. Well, there's consequences for that. The other thing that happened in that same time frame was ATRA. If you don't know who that is, the Arizona Tax Research Association was pushing the legislature to hold community colleges accountable for their expenditure limit based on actual FTEs. What that would have meant for Pima at that moment in time is that if they would have been successful, we would have had to reduce our budget around $30 to $35 million, in addition to the about $7.5 million we lost from the state. Can you imagine that? So it's hard now. Think how hard it would have been. It would have been twice as much of what we're talking about that we've actually have accomplished to date. So I don't want us to ever lose sight of that. There were some things that Pima led the way, and I don't want folks to ever lose sight of that either. Pima led the way to push back on ATRA, and we were successful in that. So let's not lose sight of that context. Now, with that said, that doesn't lessen the pain to individuals, doesn't lessen pain to everyone who's still here who has a job. But what it does reveal is we are in a very volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous time in our nation's history. And I don't see that changing for the foreseeable future. And what that's going to mean is instead of having to make this major adjustment that we just did, that now things will be more, hopefully, in a normal cycle of things. We should always be looking at how effective our programs and services are. That should be going on day in and day out, year in and year out. If something is no longer needed, the college should be acting on that. If there's opportunities to bring something new because it's responsive to the needs of students in the community, we should be doing that. But we also have to recognize that we work within a budget. So we're going to start to move into that more normal cycle of things. So what does that mean? So the big rifts, I don't anticipate having to do any more of that for the rest of this year. But that doesn't mean that there won't be rifts in a normal cycle of things going forward. And so that's an important distinction to draw. Because the deans can tell you that in some programs, they're not relevant anymore. So why would we continue to support that program? Not because we don't like the individuals who might be associated with it, but more importantly, it's got to make sense for the students in the community. So I just want to recognize the heavy lift that the deans did. To do what they did just recently was not easy. So, and then they pushed those recommendations up to ELT, and what ELT ultimately had to do, especially the provost and the presidents, as it relates to the student services and the faculty areas, again, was not easy. We're not going to disclose the names because that's up to the individuals to do that. But we went from anticipating 23 faculty loss of positions in terms of individuals potentially down to less than 10. I think it was the actual number was 9. Depending on what happens between now and the end of the year, academic year, that number may also shift differently as well, because some people in certain units, if there's some retirements or some movement, that number could change depending on a set of circumstances. In the staff side, we were anticipating about 51 positions, and fortunately that number actually went down below 10 in terms of actual individuals. So think about how amazing in many ways that is to accomplish that feat, because that was not easy. Because to deal with a number like $15 million where you're only impacting a very few individuals in positions, that's unheard of. So let's not lose sight of that either. And then on the administrator side, we went from a high of 62 administrators down to about the mid-40s. So proportionally speaking, administration, which many of you in this room are tied to, took one of the largest significant hits in this process as well. So the pain was shared across the board. So let's just be sensitive to those who are still here as well as those who will be, unfortunately, not having opportunity here at the college. So with that said, my expectation is that you'll continue to communicate, and so that's one of my goals. The other goal around expectations of communication is that you're going to take what you learned today and that you're going to make sure you cascade that down into your respective areas. That you will talk to the folks who report directly to you, and then you'll make sure those folks that directly report to you cascade the information down. So probably in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I will be going out to the campuses and I will be asking your employees what they know about the college in terms of the positive things that have happened. Much of what you're going to see today is in the assurance argument. I think every aspect of what we're sharing today is in the assurance argument. So this also helps with that preparation for that visit, because each and every one of us in this room may be asked about certain pieces of that. You don't have to know the industry partnerships as well as Ian and some other people, but you need to know about it. And that's why we're doing this. You need to know about the student services redesign. And oh, by the way, I was in a meeting with AFSCME and ACES, and the head of AFSCME made an interesting comment. She said things are getting better as a result of that student services redesign. Now, she probably would not admit that publicly to everyone in the college, but she admitted it in that group meeting. So I think even though that was hard, we're starting to see some positive things, and we'll hear more about that later today. I think another goal, and Dolores articulated it very well, and that is we want you to see the positive things going on at the college. There's more good going on than not. So just over a week ago, a handful of us were in New York City for the trustees conference. Pima was involved directly in 6 different presentations. I think we were more involved in the presentations than probably any other district in the country. What does that tell you? It tells you that people are starting to look at Pima again as a credible institution, thinking highly about what we're doing. But out of that, there were some positive things that we shared with, in this case, the trustee colleagues. that I want all of us to be aware of. Some of you know about these pieces, but many of you may not know about them, so I want to help us connect the dots today. So that's a large piece of the takeaway for today. So please ask questions about some of the things you're going to hear. Ask them how they accomplish that. Because it might look easy when you just hear, if you were at yesterday's board meeting as an example, to hear Raytheon tell the board they like the direction the college is going in. This is from one of their VPs who communicated that message to our board. They like the direction of the college, especially as it connects to the centers of excellence. I will tell you, when I first arrived here, Raytheon didn't want to have anything to do with the college. The largest employer in our community, not wanting to have anything to do with the college, and now singing our praises. That's a reflection of the great work that's been going on. And then we had Too Simple there, we had Caterpillar there, and we had Freeport-McMoRan there. And they all speak positively of Pima. And I want you all to feel that pride in that. So how did we get to that place? So as Dolores was mentioning, I just want to talk about those early days so you have a context for things. So when I come into an organization, the first question I want to ask employees, and I did this, I went around, I had dinners with faculty, I had campus office hours, and I just went and met with a lot of people. And I asked a simple question: how do you know Pima's fulfilling its mission? Nobody could answer that question. Now, how can that be, right? We are a mission-driven organization. So not to be able to answer a simple question like that was a sign of, I think, what ailed the institution. And part of that was there was no framework for mission fulfillment. And what you're going to hear today is what that framework looks like. And then based on that framework, we can begin to answer that question of how are we fulfilling our mission. And you're going to hear today, we are moving the needle in some areas. We're not where we want to be. And to be a premier institution, that's what we strive for. That doesn't mean that we're there. And in many ways, you never arrive at that destination, right? That's the big vision. But you're always striving and working towards it. And you're going to see we are moving the needle in that direction when Nick presents later. But that's probably the single most fundamental question I think it's important that we all not lose sight of. Are we fulfilling our mission? And it's not about the mission statement. It's not about the value statements. It's much deeper than that. Also, when I come into an organization, I want to know what type of planning it's doing. And I know the college was doing planning. It was lauded for its planning efforts in the 2010 HLC visit, but it was too mechanistic, and it was too burdensome, and it wasn't clear what it was pointing to in terms of that mission fulfillment. Well, you're going to learn a little bit about the fact that we've turned around planning in a very meaningful way here, and we still have challenges to work on in planning. We need to bring it all the way down to the ground floor and help each employee understand how they fit in that process and how they connect up to the mission. But I'll have an example of an employee who totally sees how he connects up, and it's Hal Melfi. So when Hal was interviewed by a group external to the college now, so this isn't me singing our praises. A lot of what we're talking about are our external partners telling us that we're doing well. So when the group from APA came out to learn more about what the college had been doing around its planning efforts, around its facilities efforts, they were talking to a number of employees. And the one employee they met with was Hal Melfi. And the story that Hal told, and Hal's in the facilities department, about how his work contributes to student success, left an indelible impression on those reviewers who came to the college. So that's what we mean by when the employee comes down to the ground floor, bringing all this down to them so that they can tell those stories of how their job connects. So that's a great example of the great work that's been going on in facilities, that Bill and his team is making sure all their people understand how they align to this notion of student success. So just keep all of those pieces in mind. You're going to hear more of these other elements, assessment, You got to be keeping your eye on the financials. Dave's team has done a phenomenal job of being able to forecast out for the institution so we can adapt more in real time. Also, we need to make sure we have the right people in the right seats of the bus, because that was another disconnect that I found while here. I think we've realigned that significantly since I've been here. And also, what processes, what systems do you have in place? We've certainly done a lot of work around our policies and procedures, and to clean that up. It's not where it needs to be, still a lot of work to be done. And then I want us not lose sight of understanding the difference of the micro forces and the micro elements. And when I say macro, I'm sorry, I didn't say macro, did I? The macro pieces, those are things outside of the college and how they impact the college, and then how the micro pieces of the college are set up so that we can be responsive to those realities. So a simple example of that is when you start looking at the realities of the birth dearth, and it's real in this community. And if you didn't read that Star article not too long ago where they had looked at all the K-12 systems, only 3 of them were up in enrollment, not by much. Most of them were down by enrollment. When you add and subtracted the numbers, the K-12 system, the public K-12 system in Pima County are down. I had a conversation with Superintendent Gabriel Trujillo, and he said to me that they just graduated 3,000 individuals this past year. New people coming into their district was only 2,200. What does that tell you? A big part of our enrollment challenge is this reality. And so we can't lose sight of that macro piece. So what does it mean from a micro standpoint? Every student who does apply, we need to capture. That's what it means. And our processes aren't designed very well to capture more of those folks who do apply. So we've got to strengthen in those internal processes, many of which were the same ones when the college was growing. So that's why I don't just buy that it's because of that, right? Because if it was good enough when the college was growing, why isn't it good enough right now? Well, first of all, it was never good enough, but it means that we have to just face that it isn't because of that alone. And you know, we have a lot of students now filling applications. That's a result of the marketing that's been happening at the college, driving more students to be interested in Pima. But we're not closing those things because some of the micro pieces that have to be cleaned up. So it's not one versus the other. It's like we got to work on all these pieces to try to eke out more enrollment, because every individual matters more now than ever before. And then online, you're going to hear about online. Yesterday, Raytheon stressed the importance of online. They would love to see Pima do more in the online space. In conversations with the University of Arizona, we could capture potentially up to 1,000 U of A students if we could strengthen our online alignment with the University of Arizona. Think about that. 1,000, close to 1,000. So we're going to have to look at how we keep investing in Pima Online so we can continue to see that growth. I still think you're at double digits this year, I believe, right, Michael? And so that is where one of the opportunity spaces are for us. And you'll hear more about this as the day goes on. So I think, again, we have a lot of positive things. You're going to hear a lot about that. But my expectation is you're going to take what you learned today and cascade it down into your respective areas of the college. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to turn it back over to Dolores, and I look forward to all of us learning together about the great things happening at the college. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. So, Nick, you're going to be presenting about strategic planning, and you can either use this microphone or however you wish to do it. And here's the clicker.
Good morning. Oh, that was pretty good. Good morning. Oh, that was quite good. That was good. Hello, hello, hello. So we're scheduled for about half an hour to talk about mission and planning. This will probably be about 15 minutes of kind of background and an overview, and then the rest open for any questions that you have about the work the college has been doing. So to start with a summary of what the problem was a number of years ago. So this is kind of where the college was around about 2014. I'm hearing a weird echo, by the way. Do I sound normal to you? I do. Okay, good. All right, so some of the challenges we had. First, no recent review of the mission, not in a substantive, meaningful way. We'd had very brief reviews as part of the strategic planning process, but really not very detailed and focused discussions. We didn't have any institutional key performance indicators, so as the Chancellor commented, it was difficult for us to say, yes, we're fulfilling our mission. Back then, we'd be able to say, we completed 99% of the things in the college plan. Doesn't really mean anything, right? Oftentimes we were completing things by holding a meeting. So there was no kind of substantive measurable improvement. So that was an issue. We did have kind of like a structured strategic planning process, but it was a little bit weak, and it had an immense committee. And I've lost count of how many times I've said this. Back then at Pima, you had the college plan over here, and then all the way over here, you had your work you actually did. And the two things really didn't very well connect. So it was like we had this wonderful plan developed by a big central committee that had essentially nothing to do with the frontline operations of the institution. So that was a really serious problem, because it was hard for people to actually connect to the college plan. And then we had no data warehouse. Oh, thank you. So no data warehouse, no interactive reports. So people either had to use Crystal reports in Pima reports, a little bit clumsy sometimes, or they had to ask IR for data, and there were so many requests, it would usually be a case of, well, I'll get back to you in a couple of months. That doesn't really support data-informed decision-making, so we needed to build out that system too. So in the last few years, we've taken various steps to try and address these weaknesses. So the first one, we adopted a new data-informed system to track mission fulfillment. So we used to just have mission, vision, values, and we had some goals, but they were kind of a bit odd. And the new system now includes a vision, mission, values, core themes, objectives, and key performance indicators. Gradually building in increasing detail, kind of the deeper you get within the system. So the mission statement is great. If you memorize it, awesome. Really the core themes are the key area that highlights the kind of central priorities within the mission. And if no one's looking nervous, but you know what's coming, don't you? What are the core themes? Access, student success, that's 2. Oh, say again. Institutional effectiveness, yeah, that's 3. Huh? Teaching and learning, I should stand over here, I can just hear Michael. What did I hear at the back? Community engagement, yes. Diversity, yes, diversity, inclusion, and global education. Let me see, I think we've got to, yes. Teaching and learning. Entertainingly, that's usually the one people get last. Core function, so I think we've got one left, if I'm keeping count properly. Student services, very good. And this is a sign of really good progress at the institution, because when we first released the mission KPIs and all that stuff, my team and I would go ask that question across all of the different campuses, all that roadshow thing we did everywhere, every month, like 100 and something sessions. I think once, one of the groups got all of them, just once. So that's great. As a group, you know them all, awesome, wonderful. Now, one of the ways we can assess how we're doing on the mission is partly tracking our key performance indicators. Another question for you. I feel slightly bad. There's supposed to be a Q&A where you get to ask me questions. I'm just asking you questions. What do we use to measure student success? What's our primary system? Yes, voluntary framework of accountability. Very good. So we can partly track how well we're fulfilling our mission, partly through tracking progress against the VFA measures, and I have a few examples. We have the whole set of KPIs within the mission fulfillment framework we can look to, and we can also look as an institution how well we're doing based on employee perceptions of satisfaction as measured through the college employee satisfaction survey. And the little chart you have at the bottom here presents 3 statements from that instrument, and we're looking at Pima in 2013, 15, 17, and the comparison group. And so, example, so the mission, purpose, and values of this institution are well understood by most employees, those kinds of comments. And as you can see, across the 3 statements included here, and it's consistent across the other mission-related statements, we have a gradual increase year to year to year. Now, we're not yet at the level of the comparison group, but what this shows us is we're moving in the right direction. And as has been commented, you kind of can't adopt an institution-wide system and get buy-in instantly. It takes time. But this is showing us gradually and incrementally employee satisfaction with mission is improving. So that's one piece that we've put in place. Next piece is strategic planning. So we were using an in-house process that was very strongly kind of advocated for by the previous Chancellor. What we did for the most recent planning year in 16-17, we looked at the systems out there in the big wide world, and we don't need to use an in-house system. There are very good higher education planning systems out there. As with so many things we tackle, we're not the only institution in the country trying to deal with this stuff. So we decided to use the Society of College and University Planning's planning model. It's a very clearly defined system. Some of the advantages it brings is it's very focused structure of different pieces that we work through. Starts with a comprehensive review of the mission. But perhaps one of the most useful aspects of this is the way it advises you build a committee and a planning group. So we went from having a strategic planning committee comprised of around about 40 to 50 people, which is what it used to be, which was a huge unwieldy group, to having a much smaller group. There was about 20 people on the last planning team, and each member of that committee had a designated responsibility. They represented a specific stakeholder group, and they were charged after each meeting to go back to their stakeholder group, gather input on the items being discussed, and then come back to the full committee. It was co-chaired by Michael Parker, then Faculty Senate President. And so we had this very clearly focused system where we ensured we had a connection to day-to-day operations and frontline roles by having these dedicated stakeholders. We also had community members involved and students. We took the strategic plan items on the road a number of times. We did this actually with the mission fulfillment framework as well. So the Futures Conference in particular has been a really useful avenue that we've been using for both these processes. The strategic planning team, briefly, were the most lucky group of people at the college because they got to spend several months line by line, pretty much going through all the mission key performance indicators to identify areas where we were doing well, identify areas where we were not doing well, and try and identify some of those key areas that we really needed to focus our attention. As a result of all of that, and the other pieces that flow through the SCUP system, we have a very data-informed strategic plan now. It used to be, we're going to increase student success. That's great, but what does it mean? Now we have specific targets built in. So we're going to improve, for example, full to next term retention or identify strategies to enable us to do that. We've got the baseline performance for the institution from the VFA. We have the average for the VFA as our kind of minimum level target. If we hit that, we'll be very happy by 2021. We also have a stretch goal, which is a performance level of the top 10% of institutions in the country. That's really the figure we're trying to get to. And that's all written up within the strategic plan. So we're being very specific in what we're going to do, and we're building that measurability so we can make sure we can track and actually say whether we're achieving progress. Again, at the bottom here, we have a few statements from the College Employee Satisfaction Survey. There's actually a bunch of them that relate to planning, but I just put 3 in here. And again, year to year to year, you can see a gradual increase in employee satisfaction in topics related to planning. In some cases, we're achieving the level of the comparison group of colleges. In some cases, not. But again, we can see we're moving in the right direction. Then the last piece of all of this is our business intelligence system, because to understand how we're doing within our mission, how we're doing within the strategic plan, and to take those broad institutional goals and turn them into something focused and meaningful, kind of by academic division, by subject area, by campus. We need a strong data infrastructure to do that. So starting in 2014, my office, working very closely with information technology and also an external consultant, ASR Analytics, have been working to implement a business intelligence system here. I'll save you all the technical details. I love the technical details, but it's probably going to be a bit dry for a lot of you. But we've established a data warehouse optimized for reporting purposes, focused around student success. We work to build in the VFA metrics. So I've used this number a lot, but it used to take about 300 staff hours to prepare the VFA metrics. It's a big, complex system. Anyone want to take a guess how long it takes us now? It's built in the warehouse? 5 minutes? Nope. 5 seconds? Closer. 2 seconds. Technology is a wonderful thing. So we're seeing improvements institutionally because we can improve data access, because you all, and you hopefully all know, that you have access to the VFA metrics, enrollment information, longitudinal trend data, persistence, retention, awards, all available to you through this interactive environment. But it's also yielding operational improvements within IR, which is good, because then if you have customized research requests, we have much more time to be able to work on those, because we're not busy doing the basic slices by program and things like that, which is what we were doing a few years ago. If you don't use interactive reports in Webby, please start. They're really good. They have lots of data access. Deans, for example, you can look at enrollment trends, you can look at demographics within classes within your division, and as administrators within the room, you will have access to the grade distribution report as well. So you can look grades for a particular class, you can compare a particular, say, I always pick on math, I don't know why, but math 151, you can compare across campuses, see if there's the same level of success. You can compare across instructional delivery methods, and it's all immediately available to you. So I encourage you to use those. If you're sitting there thinking, I don't have the first idea how to do that, that's okay. Call me. I could either sit down with you, I can send staff to run a training session. We'll help however we need to help kind of get you all comfortable using those reports. And it's always a good thing if you don't know how to do something to ask. That's never a bad thing. If you don't know how to do it and you're just like, I didn't say anything, say something. It's okay. So there's a summary here of the various reports that we have. The VFA is a particular note. You can slice those by a number of combinations of demographics. So there's a lot of options for looking at diversity and the different students we serve and how their outcomes compare. So to give you a few pieces of information to show how we're doing performance-wise. Now, there is a report posted online. We recently released the final report on the 2014-2017 strategic plan. That may sound like it was forever ago that one finished, and it is a long time since we passed the end of that plan. But last year was a comprehensive review year for us. We administered SESI, the employee satisfaction survey, a few different instruments, and so we delayed release of the report so we could make sure we had the latest and greatest information to see how we're doing as an institution. Within the executive summary of that report, there is a sizable list of positives, things that have improved at the institution. I include 3 things on here, but the list is pretty lengthy. I'm in contact with Lisa. We'll send this out, maybe in all Pima, to let people know. But there are a lot of positives in terms of student outcomes and increases in that area, employee satisfaction with different aspects of the institution, student engagement as measured through SESI. It's a lengthy list. And thank you to you, and pass it on to all of your staff, because we wouldn't see these broad institutional improvements without the work of an awful lot of people at this institution. So please let people know. As a few examples, so the upper chart here, this is the main cohort first-term credit success rate. This is something we report to the VFA. And we're looking at a series of data from for 2010, when the VFA started, we've been in since the beginning, through to for 2016 in this case. And you can see in recent years, there has been a gradual increase in first-term credit success rate, which is good. That means the new students starting at Pima are seeing more success now than they were a few years ago. Now, if we expand this and look at the grade distribution of all students at Pima in a given full semester, that's also increasing. If we look at new fall students and the proportion of them who see no success in their first term, which we want that to be 0, right? That was about 20%. Now it's about 15%. So again, it's moving in the right direction. So these are all positive signs of progress at the college. Then we have the main cohort and full to next term retention. Now this one has fluctuated over the years, but the last few years for the duration of the plan, we're starting to see a gradual increase. This may tie in with the fact that we have a strategic enrollment management plan in place. And of course, there have been the changes through the student services redesign, so we can anticipate further increases in this area. The bottom chart shows SESI results for the 5 benchmarks that organization uses. The benchmarks pull together like questions from throughout the survey, so they're good aggregate measures of how we're doing. So the mean score for this is 50, so the full SESI cohort scores 50 for these measures. The green bar shows the performance of other extra large colleges in the most recent year, and then you've got Pima in 18, 14, and 11. Some of our scores have fluctuated, but what you will notice if you compare recent years, this one we've always been pretty good in this one, relatively speaking, compared to this group. It stayed fairly similar. And this is a very exaggerated scale down the side. But in other areas, we're outperforming other extra large colleges now, and we weren't doing that in the past. Now we're slightly behind the full SESI cohort, but not by very much. As I say, this is an exaggerated scale here, just so I could highlight some of the changes. But these results indicate, employees are more satisfied with mission, with planning. We are showing progress in terms of our mission key performance indicators, both as measured by academic success and as measured by student engagement. And so these are all very kind of positive things to know about the institution. And things that we only really know because we've switched to this more data-informed approach, and we've adopted our mission fulfillment framework and strategic plan using all these KPIs. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and ask if you have any questions. Yes, do you want to use the mic?
know with the work we're doing with Ad Astra, that's one of the things we're going to be using from a scheduling standpoint. But in general, the idea of predictive analytics to help support students with their decision-making process when they onboard and as they go through the process through guided pathways.
Excellent question. So predictive analytics is kind of the next step for the institution. So the last few years, we've been building out our data infrastructure. So when we want to get information or clean data, we don't have to go to the original banner tables and views, because then we have to spend a lot of time linking across tables, cleaning data to get information then we can display in some kind of descriptive statistics table. That's mostly what the IR shop and the institution has been doing for a long time. With the establishment of the data warehouse, all of the data extraction challenges and time, really time, has been taken off the table. So we have a clean set of information sitting there waiting for us. This year, my office, and I also put out a call through ELT for the identification of key individuals across the institution who already have a stats background to get training on the use of a software package called R. It's just the letter R. I don't know if they're like pirates or what it was, but R is a fairly commonly used stats package these days. If you look at job listings of skills for data scientists, R is usually high on the list. It's comparable with SPSS and SAS and some of the others, but it's open source, freely available. It's also very robust. It has a lot of functionality built into it. So one of the things we're working on in my office, getting people trained on the use of R so we can start leveraging that for predictive analytics. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get the skills under the feet of everybody in the IR office and get embedded users across the institution, because you have to know high-level stats to be able to use R properly for predictive analytics. So we're starting with the people that know stats already, but we're going to start using that, develop linear regression models, do whatever we need to do. So we can take input data to design a model, to then use that to predict what's likely for a given student or a given group of students. So we can then share that with the institution, so that information can be used to help support those students be more successful. But by the end of this academic year, we'll be up and running doing that. It's very exciting. As a researcher, I've been desperate to get to this point for years. We're finally there. So excited. Other questions?
How close are we to being able to do ad hoc cohort tracking?
So the question is, how close are we to being able to do ad hoc cohort tracking? Actually, very close. We can build prompts into the web intelligence reports that will enable you to pick the kind of the particular subset of students you want to be looking at. And then based on that information, the report will then present you the information for that subset of students. One of the things we need to build in, which is a key metric for that, is a new to higher ed indicator. We have that built into the warehouse for the VFA cohort. On our to-do list, actually, working on it now, is expanding that calculation of whether a new student is new to higher ed to the full population within the warehouse, so we can do meaningful cohort tracking. You can cohort track if students aren't new to higher ed, but then it's kind of a bit messy, because who knows what those students have done before. So, but very close. Other questions? I'm ready for anything. I'm just like, I have a few minutes. I might ask you a question then. Actually, I think I will. You don't have to get the wording right. Broad areas are fine. We have 3 strategic directions in the current plan. What are they? Yes, student success, that's one of them. Yes, community engagement, enrich the community through learning, yeah. What's the other one? There's one left. Oh, I heard 2. Yes, institutional effectiveness. So student success, community engagement, institutional effectiveness. So it sounds like another question, but you'll notice, right? They align with 3 of our core themes. So the system all kind of connects together. I'll pause for a moment. How long do I have left? I still have a few more minutes. I have one more question left too. Anybody thought of anything you want to ask before I ask my last question?
Nick,
Yes.
you touched on it a little bit, but how important was the community at large outside of Pima's involvement in this planning process?
Oh, hugely important. So the question was, thank you. I often forget. It's a really good reminder. So the question is, how important was community involvement in the planning process that we adopted? And I mean, the short answer is hugely important. So we had 2 community members who served on the planning committee. Alan Storm, who originally was superintendent at JTED. He's no longer in that role. And also Metalu Henderson, who many of you probably know. He's a community member here in town. So they participated in some extremely lively conversations with the strategic planning team and the other kind of stakeholders in that group. But we also had a number of avenues for input. So as part of the planning process, we developed a list of possible strategic directions. Some of them were possible rollover items from the previous plan. Some of them were weak areas we identified through the analysis and mission fulfillment framework. And then other things were kind of emerging trends and input we were hearing about. Those items went to the attendees at the Futures Conference, and we had 2 events that year because there was a bit of a scheduling problem with one of the days. So we ran it twice. We had a little over 200 people who attended, some external, some internal. But we had those tables pick the most important strategies from their perceptions, and then they provided input and discussion on them. We took all of the rankings across all of the tables, compiled them together, and then that ranking went forward to the strategic planning team at the retreat, so those items could directly inform the decisions that were made about what went into the strategic plan. And really, I mean, obviously, we're a community college, so input from the community is absolutely critical as we identify the things we need to be doing. And that's some of the channels that we used. Other questions? All right, I won't pick on people and put you on the spot, but this is kind of a practice, right? When the HLC is here, they could ask you this question. So if you're sitting there going, I don't have an answer to that question, you've got from now until early December, be thinking about what it is. How do you all support the mission of the institution? In terms of your day-to-day work, what do you do that supports either the strategic plan or the institutional mission? Would anybody like to share your comments? How would you answer that question? Ian, I'll pick on you.
Talking about it at 1 o'clock.
Oh, do you want his mic?
I'm talking about it at 1 o'clock more formally, but my team and I's role is to ensure that the voice of business and industry and community partners is ever present in our decisions, and at a strategic and tactical level that what we're doing meets their needs and ensures upward mobility for our students.
Excellent answer. Anybody else want to give an answer? What they do? I'll pick on someone. Actually, I might not. I'll see how I feel.
Have Hilda answer that question, because our diversity activity is important to this. So.
I think all of the work that I do is around student success. Every conversation, every time we look at a policy, when I talk to others about their own institutional, or what is it, IQ plans, quality plans and actions, it's about how do we look at the ways that we serve our very diverse student body in being successful and completing their educational goals.
Very good. All right, let me see. I'm going to pick on someone, I think. Now I'm nervous. I might pick on somebody and then they won't speak to me ever again. Let me see. Somebody operational, because it's often easier for the academic side, right? Raj?
I knew it. Well, IT is responsible for the entire infrastructure of the institution. So whatever anybody does within the organization has to go through IT. So we provide information, we provide governance, we will be providing governance for IT, infrastructure and flow. Without those three things, it'll be impossible to do work.
Very good. All right, good. So everybody be thinking about this, right? Make sure you know, because every single one of you does a huge amount of work to support our students, their outcomes and their success. Whether it's a direct kind of working with students on the campus, whether it's indirect, such as the role of my office. I pretty much never see a student. But we have a clear role supporting student success by providing evidence and data to help you all know how to better support the students at the campuses. So I think my time is up, so I'm going to hand you over to whoever's next. I'm not sure who that is.
Thank you, Nick. So I think with what the Chancellor has said and then Nick's presentation, we have an overall framework of what we need to be working on and what we know right now. So next we have Daisy Rodriguez Pitel, who is going to be sharing some of the projects that International Development has done. Ricardo is at a conference, so he's unable to be here, but Daisy has graciously accepted to talk about this. They're going to do it. Actually, we take the...
Good morning. Oh, that is pathetic. I know that there is probably at least 50 people in here. So I'm going to say good morning in another language, and let's see if you could respond. Buenos dias. All right. Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohio is good morning in Japanese. Magandang umaga. All right, that is in Tagalog. My name is Daisy Rodriguez Pitel. I'm the Associate Director for Global Engagement and Student Services. And so we have a great opportunity to share with you the wonderful things that occur in the Center for International Education and Global Engagement and International Development. So I have a question. What do you think we do in our office? So I'm gonna follow Nick's lead and also ask questions. So anyone, what do you think we do in our area? Recruit. Okay, recruit. What else? Support international students. Support international students. What else? Study abroad. We do more than 3 things. Global education, thank you. What else? What about someone in the back of the room? What do you think we do in the Center for International Education and Global Engagement and International Development? All right, Suzanne. Co-curricular engagement, thank you. And that includes more than just doing study abroad. Anyone else have any ideas? So I want to share with you that one of the major challenges our office faces is that many people believe that all we do is international student recruitment. And all we do is support the success of international students. And those are 2 misperceptions. So I'm going to share with you 5 things that we do. I'm going to talk about our partnerships, the grants we bring to the college, our global engagement programming, and also study abroad. And then I'm going to end with the awards we've received over the last 3 years for the work we've done in supporting and promoting internationalization at Pima Community College. So this list here shows you people locally who support international education. The reason why I am sharing this is because many people believe that the work we do detracts from our educational purpose in serving the local community. And many people believe that the work we do does not benefit our local students, that it really detracts and takes away from the mission of community colleges. So I want you to see here, this is a pretty extensive list. We have different business and industries, we have cultural organizations, we have Vantage West, we have System Coalition, so we have nonprofit organizations listed on here too. And I think this is really important to highlight because our area works with many different folks in the Tucson area that promote, support, and validate international education. And again, we often receive criticism for not showing that we benefit the local students, the local community, and the work that we do in our area. There are 7 people who work in the Center for International Education and International Development, and we do much more than recruit international students. We work with a wide variety of partners, and this is only a list of our domestic local partners. We could have another slide that showcases our international partners. But when I spoke with Ricardo about this presentation, it was really important that we take this opportunity to share all of our partners that are local. Because again, I can't emphasize this enough. Lee said, this is our opportunity to showcase our success, and we have great success in this community, in the Tucson community, in promoting international education. So one of the pieces that folks aren't aware of is that we have brought in almost $1 million to the college, and $707,755 have been grants that supported local students, not international students. So we have been able to provide 488 scholarships to local students. And these scholarships have helped support tuition and study abroad programs. And there's just a few that I want to highlight. So there's 2 grants on here that we received where we worked with middle school and high school students to promote STEM and entrepreneurship. So in addition to working and promoting international education within the college, we've also done this with high schools and middle schools. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about the eSTEM program. So this was a program that occurred last spring of 2018, and we had 20 students from 7 different high schools who spent 6 Saturdays at the West Campus, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for 6 Saturdays. Isn't that amazing? That is a huge commitment for a high school student. And during that time, we worked closely with System Coalition. We also worked with student clubs. So our SHIP organization, the Society for Hispanic Professionals and Engineers, our IT student club, our business club, they all worked in unison with our office, and they came out on Saturdays to do presentations to these high school students. We also worked closely with System Coalition, who came out and they taught them robotics, and they also did other science-related activities. So one of our largest grant providers who contributed to the scholarships is Parents Alliance, Juntos Podemos, and they provided $123,000. And also, another really critical grant is the IME Becas, which is $339,000. So again, this is really important for you to keep in mind when you talk with folks about the work that we do, that we are supporting local students and not just international students. Another key area that we do, and this is an area that I am largely responsible for, is global engagement programming. Again, the purpose of global engagement programming is to really help raise and increase global literacy and cultural competency for all of our students. You can see here, these are some of the main programs that we do. We have a global peers mentoring program that started with 8, and now we're at 14 students. And these are mostly domestic students and some international students who want to give back and want to help international students be successful. And then our study abroad, we started in 2016. We had 6 students. And then in 2017, 2018, we had 53 students study abroad. We also have a very successful Conversation Partners program. This is an opportunity for any Pima employee to really help international students practice their English. And we have a few folks here who have participated in the Conversation Partner program. So Vice President Lamada Mitchell volunteered. So thank you, Lamada, for doing that. What's really wonderful about the Conversation Partners program is we've had administrators, staff, faculty, students, and community members spend 1 hour a week with an international student and help them practice their English. We also do a tea time program, and this is typically once every 2 to 3 months. It's quarterly, and we bring up different issues. We talk about global issues, current events. It's an opportunity for international students and our local students to have dialogue about what are your cultural values, what are important holidays from your country, and to really promote dialogue and international education and conversation. And then this last area, global education programs, really represents a wide variety of different programs that occur throughout the year. And there were 2 handouts that I distributed. So on here gives you more examples of international programs that we have done and that we continue to do. The last piece that I want to point out is we also do short-term programs. So this past summer, we had a group from China come, okay, and we also had a group from Mexico come. So also during the academic year, we've had 158 students from 2015 to 2018. So we also contribute to the enrollment of the college. So I think that's another piece that people are not aware of. So this is one of the pieces that I really am proud of, because we didn't have a centralized process or system for promoting education abroad. And I wanted to just highlight here that we've had so many different disciplines represented. So we had Mandarin, drawing, advanced Spanish, anthropology, energy analysis, modern literature. And I wanted to highlight one student. So this is Watana Shorty. She is American Indian, and she had an opportunity to travel to Ireland. Similar to many of our students, most of our students who have studied abroad at Pima have never been on an airplane, have never left Tucson. So we are broadening their worldview. So Watona shared, Ireland was a life-changing experience. I realized I am capable of so much and inspired to continue my education with Native American law. So 2 important things I want to share is when you look at the Open Doors report, 0.5% of American Indian students study abroad, and at Pima we have 6.6%. That is something to be proud of. When you look at the Latinx students, 8.8% participate. At Pima, 53% of our students have been Latinx. That is incredible. So I just want to end with, these are awards that we've received since 2015, and this is not because we are excellent at international student recruitment. This is because we are good at fulfilling the mission of the college. So I'm going to read what's on here. It says, by providing educational pathways that ensure student success and excellence, for the academic, economic, and cultural quality of our students and diverse community. So it's really important for me to emphasize that these awards we've received is because we are doing international education and attempting to do comprehensive internationalization at the college. So we have been recognized for our co-curricular engagement, for our global programming, for supporting local students to study abroad. This is not because we are excellent at international student recruitment. And it's really important for me to say that, because that is a huge misconception, that that is what our office does, is international student recruitment. Katie, how much time do I have? Okay. All right, I think so before I conclude, I really want to say that this presentation is a collaborative effort of our team. This wasn't something that Ricardo and I decided to do. When I asked our team, what is it that you want to make sure that I address? Because I have this wonderful opportunity to speak to administrators and leaders at the college, and they said, make sure they understand that we do more than recruitment. So I really hope that I hammered that, that idea. One of the other challenges that we face, and something else that I was asked to bring up, is that we do not have an online student application. And that is a key piece that we need if we do want to increase international student recruitment. When our colleagues travel abroad and go to high school fairs, speak to parents, there are other competitors, other community colleges that have their laptop and they're saying, Nina, sign up, apply to our college, and they could do it on the spot, and Pima cannot. So if we really do want to increase international student enrollment, we need an online application. So whoever can help make that happen, please partner with us and help us, because that can help address our enrollment issue. We need an online student application. Yes?
We can and we are already on your door knocking for attention.
Okay, thank you, Raj. Oh, okay, so Raj just shared that we are doing this. They're knocking on our door. We're gonna make this happen. Yes? All right, fantastic. Okay, well, I can take questions now, if anyone has any questions. Nina.
I know you do more than recruit international students, but what I did for you today is how many international students we have.
Okay, so we have almost 300 international students as of this fall. We're not really sure what the numbers are yet in the spring. Thank you. Any other questions? Is anyone curious how we have had 53% of our study abroad students that are Latinx? Is that amazing? Does anyone want to know how we do that? Is anyone curious? Yes. So one of the ways that we do this is, I've worked at the college for 10 years, and I've got to know different faculty, and I think it's really critical that when you build faculty-led study abroad programs, that you're working with faculty that are equity-minded and care about access and affordability. So all of our programs, when we build them, we make sure that they're affordable. If you look at our costs for study abroad programs compared to any other university, we are so affordable. Our most expensive study abroad program has been $3,000, and our least expensive has been $0 because we have been able to financially fund it for any student participant. So we understand that the #1 hindrance to studying abroad is cost, especially for our community college students. Another thing I want to mention is, within our demographics, we've had students who are 19 to 57 years old study abroad. So that's another piece, is that we do not discriminate at all based on age. So we don't discourage students regardless of what their age is. We make sure that we are accessible, affordable, and that we have no bias. If someone approaches us and says, we want to study abroad, we don't say, no, sorry, I don't think you're the right fit for this program. We would never tell a student they're not the right fit, because anyone who wants to study abroad and values lifelong learning, we will help them to make it happen.
Daisy, I just had a question. So of the 300 students, could you give a general breakdown of the percentage in terms of regions of the world, and then where strategically the recruiters are really focusing their energy?
That is a good question. I know where our top 5 countries are, but I'm not sure about which regions. I can say that we do have a high population of students from Asia. So our top 5 countries are Mexico, Vietnam, China, Saudi Arabia, and I believe Korea. So definitely, I think Asia and Mexico, those are our 2 highest regions. And so that's where most of our recruitment efforts focus on, is largely in Asia. But it is broken down by different regions. And I am not the person who is responsible for that area, so I'm sure Ricardo can speak more about that.
Ricardo shared with me the other day that India is our fastest growing country right now.
India, okay.
Hi.
Thank you, Morgan.
My question is with study abroad. Currently, you have short programs, I believe. Are there plans to make any of these study abroad programs a semester or even a year long in length?
So we really want to keep in mind our students. And for many of our students, so when a student is interested in study abroad, they come and they have an informational meeting with me, and I actually have a survey that they complete. Most of our students can only do study abroad during the summer or during spring break because of family commitments. Some of them have multiple jobs. It would be really difficult for them if they were gone for a semester or for a full year. So we have had conversations about that, but it just doesn't seem as realistic, or it doesn't really fit in their schedule. It just doesn't meet their needs. So it is something that we've talked about. All right, any other questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
One of our general ed learning outcomes describes diversity and global awareness. Can you describe how your program works with the different disciplines that have G courses for the global awareness, and how the 2 work together?
So we work with any faculty that is interested and expresses interest in international education and internationalizing the curriculum. So actually, we don't just look at courses that have a G. So one example of that is we worked with Michael Esser, who teaches in energy analysis at the downtown campus, and his course definitely did not have a G. But we had an opportunity to promote sustainability in Mexico, so we partnered with Michael and a group of students who our building and construction technology students. So this is a really great opportunity for me to invite you. If you know of faculty members that want to do some sort of global education, or if they want to internationalize their curriculum, please invite them to come and speak with us in our office. Internationalizing the curriculum is more than just doing study abroad programs. There are internships. I would love for us to do some sort of technology where we could have face-to-face conversations with students from different countries. And there is a way to do that. So this is our opportunity to really be innovative. I want to share with you before I wrap up that Skyline College is a college in the San Mateo Community College District. This is the mission of their college. Their mission is to empower and transform a global community of learners. That is not a mission for one office. That is their college mission, to empower and transform a global community of learners. And when I saw that, I was so impressed that this is their college purpose. They want to develop global citizens. They understand the benefits to the economy when students are globally literate and competent. So I want to just challenge you to think about what more can we do as a college to really internationalize our curriculum and the student experience, to help our students to be more marketable. I saw a statistic that said 90 students who studied abroad had a 97% higher chance of landing a job than students who didn't. 97%, because they could talk about what it meant for them to go to another country and how to be resilient, how to navigate in a different culture, in a different world. And I think that is a really wonderful asset that can help a student stand apart against other competitors.
I'll just add a few more pieces.
Sure, yes.
Because I think it's important that, as she's been highlighting, international isn't just about bringing students here, right? So one of the things that Ricardo and I, in a trip to Mexico earlier this year to San Luis Potosí, what you may not be aware of is Mexico as a country has been creating a new university system. And it's going to be focused more on this applied technology aspects or career technical education. Well, one of those universities there is looking to pattern their curriculum after Pima's curriculum. So think about the power of that going forward, that if this university in fact uses Pima's curriculum, all of a sudden you can get a degree from either place, right? And the significance of that. So keep that in mind. We're also building that type of partnership into other countries. Again, it's not about just getting these students here. It's not about study abroad. It's about being able to do a lot more around helping these other countries develop their infrastructures, because really what's happening, if you're not aware of this, is most major issues now are global issues. And our students are going to have to function in that context. And if they're not capable of doing that, they will be less competitive against students who are. So that's really what we're up. And the number she gave you of 300 is the students who are studying at Pima. What she didn't mention were all the other individuals who come to Pima around international and short-term pieces. We have faculty who come to us from other countries to learn about Pima's model. They come here for a short period of time. So it's far more expansive than what you saw. And the other thing I think Ricardo would say is some sections of courses here at Pima would not be running but for the fact that we have this international program. And so again, not lose sight of that reality, that it's actually helping. And then from a budget standpoint, Dave, international brings in more than it actually costs the college. And I don't know if you know that number off the top of your head, but if you do, could you just share it? Because I want people to know they're not taking away from the general fund. They're actually adding dollars to the college.
It's about $2 million.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lee, for adding that. And also, I know that Ricardo would welcome an email or other questions. And so thank you very much. I think that's my time, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Daisy. So we will have our break now, and if you can please come back before, maybe at 10:40, because we'll be starting the next presentation at 10:45. So please take more coffee, pastries. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.